Didn't sound good. Okay, we're opening the call to order of the minutes for the Transportation Advisory Committee for October 17th, 2017. Meeting is in order. Lisa, please call the roll.
Mr. Anderson, Mr. David.
Present.
Mr. Jessic, Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. LaSalle.
Here.
Mr. McEnroe.
Here.
Mr. Lyman and Mr. Mahoney.
Here.
Well, we have a quorum, so I guess we're okay. Agenda analysis, Item 2, approval of the minutes of September 19th, 2017. Does anybody have any changes, additions? Okay, we're okay for there. I'll take a motion for approval.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. I need to abstain. I wasn't here.
Have you read them?
Yeah.
That counts as a,
Okay.
yeah.
Aye.
Agenda analysis. Does anybody have anything they want to add to the agenda this evening or change?
Yeah, we want to add discussion of the interviews.
Yeah, tech interviews. Let's see here. Let's do that on item 6, communications.
Okay.
I have a couple of items, short little items that I'll bring up during that time. I don't think it needs to be considered an addition. I have one about truck traffic on 12th Street under the overpass of the train. And then I think everybody got one of these notices of a lady sending in some information of her thoughts on Max. So I'll bring those up at the same time.
Okay. Do you have a quick update on Park Place Neighborhood Association as well? If they'll be attending next month for sure, or?
What's that?
You had mentioned last meeting, Park Place Neighborhood Association would like to attend the meeting, and you were going to talk to them at the last association meeting about showing up in November. I just wanted to confirm.
Oh, yes. We had a meeting last night,
okay.
And I told them that we were originally going to have it tonight, except the people with answers wouldn't be here, right. So I encouraged them to come to the meeting of the 21st.
Okay.
And get the word out because they would be on the agenda.
Okay, great. Yeah, John Lewis just wanted to know so he could have a presentation available for them.
I also gave them John Lewis's email because I told him, I said, nobody likes to be blindsided. Right. And if you'll email your information or your concerns to him, then he'll have a chance to come up with some answers, hopefully. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay, great.
Of course, that was just people in the meeting at last night. There was about 40 people there.
How many?
About 40.
Is that right?
Yeah. Well, we had Tony Conkle giving us the state of the city, and then we had Pete Walter discussing land use things. So there were a couple of pretty good draws.
Yeah.
There, and of course, I was there as the land use chair, so what can I say?
No, they were there to see you.
I'll tell you, it's a little bit of a relief, though, to have given up that chairmanship. You know, I don't have to worry about all that preparation and stuff. Okay, let's see here. Citizen comments. Did you want? Nope, just here to spy on us.
Okay.
Okay. No citizen comments. Kelly Reed isn't here yet for new business discussion items. Mm-hmm. So we'll go right on to item 5C, the neighborhood traffic fact sheet revisions.
I have to admit, I don't have hard copies. I tried to print them and they wouldn't print. So I'm going to pull it up on the projector. You guys can also see it
Yeah.
on your presentation screen.
Okay,
And then we can go through that
Yeah.
way if you'd like, and I can show you what I've updated.
yeah,
So-
okay.
Perfect timing.
Have you all had a chance to look at the draft that I emailed you?
I've gone through it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And I don't think
And
it's transferred.
I must say, you and John have done a tremendous amount of work to it.
Yes, yeah, we're trying to make it look pretty for you guys. Let's see.
Well, it's also getting easier to understand.
Yeah, and it's giving references for where people can go to get
Yep.
more detailed information. That's one thing I like about it.
Well, let's see if we can get this to work here. I'll improvise in a minute here if it's not going to come up. Nope, okay. I think I can get it from here. I'm wondering if they switched it out, but I can just do it from my screen. That's fine, I can get it from. It'll just take a second, I'm guessing.
I get this screen.
You're getting this screen? And you're not getting this screen. Okay. Well. This one isn't? Someone switch it. This right here? Should probably go into here.
Hey, there it is.
Got it? Awesome. Wonderful. Yeah, someone had redirected it. Okay. All right, here we go. Thank you, Renee. All right, so here is the neighborhood traffic fact sheet, the last revision I did on the 12th. So I incorporated all of your guys' comments as well as John's. You wanted a phone number on the front that they could call, so we put the main City Hall phone number. We wanted to give you guys accolades for putting it together, so we also put on there that it was developed by the TAC. And then we created a second page, and I moved up the acronyms per Henry's request so that they were first.
Per my wife's request.
Your wife's request, correct, yes. And then we have a list of all of you guys, as well as letting them know when the regular TAC meeting is if they want to come and attend and discuss this. And we hope you don't mind, we've asked that they direct all questions and comments to the TAC, care of the Public Works Department. So if you want that changed in any way, just let me know. Okay.
I have, if you'll go back to that.
Oh.
On the last page, there's an AASHTO.
AASHTO,
What's that?
that, and I put it right, I spelled it out, it's under,
Oh,
ASHTO is
ASHTO.
yeah,
you know better.
ASHTO is the National Testing Organization.
right here on this page, American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials.
Oh,
And I
okay.
provided a link to that site as well. We also reference it in the roundabout section. And that was John Lewis's
Yeah. But
request. Is
we
that
need to
add
bring,
that
we need to bring it up is all. Into the,
into the acronyms.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
They make
Sure.
recommendations on signs and everything, traffic related.
Okay.
And it does look like the acronyms are light. And so there are other acronyms that I need to work into that as
Yeah.
well.
it's amazing how they can escape your notice.
Right, yes, yeah. Okay, so I'll make sure I get AASHTO in there.
Well, there's something else in there that I'd like to see, which you just pointed out, is the first time an acronym is used, it's completely spelled out. And then
Yes.
throughout the rest of the document, it's not necessary to use all that space.
Right, and I tried to catch that. I noticed like Public Works Department and a few other acronyms weren't spelled out to begin with, so I tried to go back and spell them out the first time and then put in parentheses the abbreviation.
Yeah.
So if you notice anything that's missing, if you just want to email me and let me know so I can go back and edit that.
Okay.
And then I tried to work in the links that you guys asked for. I'm trying to include all the links throughout the document because we are going to include an electronic copy on the website, and they should be able to just access through the hyperlink to that site as they're going through the document. And then at the very end, there's a useful links section as well that I also need to beef up a bit, but I'll put them all there at the end in one place. So I didn't change any of the wording. I think I changed one sentence per Henry's wife's recommendation, but otherwise it's still the same language. At this point, I think we're trying to really refine it and make it as easy for the user-friendly as possible with all these additional links in here. But again, if I miss any, just let me know. I think I have one that you requested that I need to find still. So I just try to make it, the formatting a little easier to,
Right here on this page, you'll notice you got crosswalks as a heading twice.
okay, yep,
I just saw that just as it came up.
okay, yeah, okay, so I'll change that as well. And then we'll remove that. So when it comes to these tables, John would like me to create an infographic. So that's why these are not completely filled in yet. I still need to work on speed, but I'm creating an infographic to replace those. And then we'll wrap the text around the infographic as if it's a picture worked into the document. So I didn't have time to tackle that yet. But that's one more request John had. And so if we go through. And then at the end, I have all the useful websites, which I still need to beef up a bit.
And you added the safe routes in paragraph too.
Yeah, I worked on the safe routes to school paragraph. And then per John's request, under traffic calming devices, he asked that I build in Drive Safe Oregon City campaign and radar speed trailers. So they have a bigger section than they had before. So those are the big changes that we did this last time.
I for one think it's starting to look like a real document.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we decided to forego a table of contents, correct? We don't feel the need for a table of contents. Okay.
It's not big enough.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I'll clean it up some more, add infographics, page numbers, sort of thing, and then I'll resend it out to you guys.
I have a question, Lisa. And I don't know if this is the place for this or not, but the fact that a neighborhood could propose an LID to make an improvement, whether it's a sidewalk, an intersection, a roadway, or whatever it is, I didn't see that. And again, I don't know if that fits the initial thinking, but that's one way to finance a project that might not make it as just a city priority. So I don't know, that's one of the things I noticed.
I know that some neighborhoods want to incorporate speed humps in their neighborhood, but they're not on the list. And an LID might be one avenue that they could address that.
Okay. We could add in a section on financing
Pull your mic in
and
closer.
budgeting of traffic calming devices if you want.
I think that's a good idea, John, really, because people need information like that.
Yeah.
I don't think most of them even have a mental picture
Yeah.
that they could help by partnering, they'll pay half the cost and that gets it going or whatever.
Okay, yeah. I could mention in that section as well that speed humps, the neighborhood also pays for that themselves. And so we
Right.
could
Yeah.
lump that all into the same paragraph and section
Yeah.
if you like.
Yeah,
So they
fits right
know.
in there.
Okay. Sure.
And did not the city have a precedent in those radar signs, you know, in the McLaughlin neighborhood bottom?
Yes, yeah. I believe there's a permanent one, correct?
right.
And that's what they helped fund.
Right.
And then, so what I should probably mention them in this, because the radar speed trailers that I mentioned in the document are the mobile
Right.
Yeah.
radar trailers that we have two of. And we do have the one on Lynn Avenue,
Right.
right in Fifth, and then we have one on High Street.
Yeah, and my thinking is if you're going to create a funding section, that is some things you could use as an example of what might be appropriate to fit into there.
Okay, sure. That's a great suggestion. Yeah.
Now, once we've approved this, does this have to go before the city commission?
That I do not know yet. I think it should,
Yeah. I
so
do
that they're
too.
aware of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it has to, but I think we should have it go before city commission anyway, so that they're aware of the document.
I think they would be willing to listen to it and look at it at least.
Right, yeah.
Anything that's got to do with funding, I think they might want to, respond to.
Yeah, well, there's that, but also the fact that the committee is actually presenting some information, they might want to look at it to be sure it's information they want to have presented.
Right.
I don't think it has any budget implications, all other than printing.
No,
No.
No, it doesn't.
Well, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think there really won't be many printing costs associated because we'll be putting it on the website electronically. And that's how most people will access it.
yeah.
If you want, I could probably put some language in there that if they want a copy mailed to them, they can contact me and I can mail them a copy, which is what we do with a lot of our documents nowadays. So,
Well, I think this that you put together is wonderful. I would anticipate that with the additions and changes that were suggested tonight, that we may be able to have a vote on approval of it at the next meeting.
okay.
Yeah, it's pretty close to a done deal right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful.
I had a question.
Sure.
The last type of, I don't know, traffic calming, whatever it was, chicane is? How do you pronounce that?
I think it's chicane. That's what Martin.
Chicane?
Yeah, he's familiar with them in Florida. And so he wanted to incorporate them in the document so it's more well-rounded, but yeah, chicane.
And if you ever been in San Francisco, you want to drive on Lombard Street because that was the first one that I know of in the United States.
Oh,
Yeah, and then that's
yeah, snake, the serpent.
skiing
And
too.
that snaky downhill run. So
Yeah, I heard it called curvilinear streets in large subdivisions so you can control traffic speeds.
that's pretty much the same thing.
Okay.
I didn't know that was the first one.
Well, they were having such trouble with people trying to fly down that hill and jump the intersections and whatnot that they needed to do something, and that's the solution they picked up on.
It worked.
Okay, that's done with that subject. You want to talk about TAC interviews now?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I received 5 applications, although one of them was Henry's. By mistake, he accidentally received an email saying he needed to submit an application. So he did, but he is not up for another year. So we have 4 applications. One of them are reapplying, John Anderson.
Oh, good.
And then we have 3 others. We'll probably want to do that at the next meeting in November. Schedule those. I can send you the applications by email. I have confirmation from the city recorder's office that they do not become part of the agenda. And so instead of having to redact any information, I can send them to you via email so you can review them ahead of time of the interviews.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
yeah. And then I also wanted to check, it's just a couple of days before Thanksgiving, so to make sure we have quorum and everyone here for those interviews. Is there anyone that won't be in town?
I'm pretty-
I'll be in town. You might email the people that are not in attendance tonight to confirm with them.
Okay, yeah. Well, it'd be 2 days before.
yeah.
John's looking at his ever-handy book over there, so we'll find out from him.
And I guess too, I'll have to check with the applicants because if we
Oh, yes.
don't have, enough of them that can attend on that Tuesday, we can always do a special meeting, which we've done in the past.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we can
right.
discuss it at that time.
Depending on the weather,
Right.
as last year.
Right, yes.
was it?
Earlier rather than
Was it
later.
February sometime we finally got
Yes.
them?
March.
Right.
What a
right.
mess.
Yeah. So I'll send that out to you guys and I'll schedule those and yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get there if we have to adjust. But we'll shoot for November.
This is a good time to ask one question. How's Martin doing?
He's doing great. Yeah, he's in Clearwater, Florida, and he's been going between there and San Juan, Puerto Rico, bringing in supplies and evacuating
Oh,
people
wow.
and pets. And so he should be back by the end of the month. But yeah,
Good.
yeah, we've
Well-
certainly been missing him. It's been a while.
We miss him, but we know he's doing important work.
Great. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I have a note here from a person, and there is no name attached to it. And I forgot how I got it, the note, but she says 18-wheelers diverted to go down 12th Street under the overpass, and that is of the railroad overpass, because of the dip. Because of the dip, trailer hits the overpass. Overpass clearance is 12 feet, but is actually less with the dip in the road. So I can see how that could happen. Would the height sign be the responsibility of the railroad or the city?
Let me talk to Matt Paulison and find out.
gonna
I
pass this
think
note
it
on to
might
you.
be, yeah. Let me take that. I will talk to Matt. I want to say it's Union Pacific Railroad. But I'll have him verify and I'll follow up with you gentlemen by email.
Yeah, because you know how trucks, if they're going over and then there's a dip and then another dip, the trailers could actually be over that 12-foot
Well,
signage.
I have personally seen the resin truck going into Miles Fiberglass, and it's like 45 feet long, and it spans that dip rather nicely. And there's about 3 inches of clearance between the top of the tank and the bottom beam on the railroad bridge. But he does it once a week or twice a month and has for the last 20, 30 years.
yeah,
But yeah, that's also one I noted when I did the report on the overcrossings a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
I cited the very same thing.
okay.
It
Well,
might
this,
be.
of course, was unusual because there was some kind of detour that they had to
Yeah.
point them in that direction, and for whatever reason. Anyway,
Yeah,
I thought I'd pass it on just for what it's worth.
okay. It might be a good idea to bring back your study.
Yeah,
And
well,
go
I
over
hope you
that
have a
again.
copy because I haven't found one on my computers.
I do.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a copy. I
Good.
can dig it up and we can go over that again if you'd like.
I think it'd be worthwhile because I think the detour he was talking about was the downtown water sewer project thing where they were closing off the
Main Street to
streets.
Division Water Line
Yeah,
Project on
yeah.
15th. Yeah,
Yeah, it probably was.
Yeah. okay.
Okay, the next item I have is a lady, Lisa, you wrote this copy to all of us about the Max come into Oregon City. Does everybody remember that notification? I'll read it.
Yeah.
Willamette Falls Legacy Project Max extension to Oregon City. She called after seeing a public meeting notice that mentioned extending Max to Oregon City to increase access to Willamette Falls. She said that they were talking about it at the TAC. She strongly urges that we not extend the Max to Oregon City because of the crime and homeless population issues that come along with that. She would rather see a nice trolley or some other type of tourist-friendly mode of transportation that would increase access to Willamette Falls without bringing negative side effects. She just wanted to give her opinion since she is not able to attend the public meetings. So that's one person's opinion. I'm sure if we ever get to the point where we're trying to figure out how to get light rail here,
We'll have many.
we'll get a lot of input. Me included.
It'd be a long time before you got light rail here, so.
Yeah,
But it might be a long time before Willamette Falls development will be done too, I don't know.
well, and I think if they wanted to extend light rail into Oregon City, it'd have to go to a vote of the county.
In Metro and,
Well, I don't think so much Metro as county, the voters in Clackamas County have voted that they need to have the vote for any further railroads, which includes major railroads, this kind of
but I think
railroad,
a lot of the funding would come from Metro.
probably. Yeah,
So they would have to approve it as a project.
yeah.
But I have a hard time envisioning somebody throwing a TV over their shoulder and jumping on the Max. So,
Well, I'm sure that this, if that ever got to that point, that the planning commission and the city commission would also be addressing that.
I think that would be a ways down the road. I think John mentioned at the last meeting, they tend to do improvements and extensions by region. And so they'll be focusing on southwest and then moving on
Oh.
to southeast. And so,
probably 20 years or more down the road for Oregon City.
yeah. So,
With
Well, I hope I'm
funding
still alive to
availability.
see it, but probably not. So anyway, it was kind of a semi-official document. I wanted to be sure to get it out there and make sure everybody knew about it. It looks like we got forgotten by Miss Reed.
well, I talked to her just yesterday and she gave me her presentation. So I confirmed with her yesterday. I don't know what may
You
have
think
come
maybe
up.
she assumed that our meetings start at 7 o'clock?
That's kind of what I'm worried about. I mean, I gave her a copy of the agenda and everything like everyone else that says 6, but yeah, most of our meetings start at 7, so I'm wondering if she thinks it's 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would be appropriate to take a short recess and I can try to call her and see
Well,
where
let's go
she's at.
into future agenda items. Does anybody have any future agenda items they'd like to have addressed?
Yeah, yeah.
Interviews.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. Well, then let's take a recess at the maximum of half an hour.
Okay.
You know,
Hopefully a lot shorter than that. I'll try
I've
to
been
give her a call.
involved in the McLaughlin-Kenema Trail plan. So if she
That's understandable. I think we're the only committee that meets this early.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, the Historic Review Board.
Do they?
meets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So.
All right, which one?
should I- Yeah, this one's good.
Okay, so let's go to,
So, I'm here to give you kind of our planning department's general land use 101 kind of presentation. And so I will try and go quickly through this. If you want me to spend any more time on anything, feel free to interrupt, ask questions. But I'm just going to give you an overview of our development review process and some general kind of planning issues that we deal with. So let's see if this thing works. All of the everything that we use in our department to review development comes straight out of the city's municipal code. Mostly chapter 17, which is the zoning code. There are kind of other sections that do apply as well. You can access all of it online. And the municipal code is adopted by the city commission. It's created collaboratively with the community. The planning commission reviews it, then goes to city commission. So if there's ever a change or an amendment to the code that's proposed, it follows that same process. So we engage the community, we go to the planning commission, the city commission gives a final approval or denial of that amendment. And the code is really based, it starts with a comprehensive plan. This is our primary document for guiding development in the city. They're required by state law. There are 19 statewide planning goals that our comprehensive plan has to address. Ours was last adopted in 2004, so it's actually been a while, 13 years since we've updated our comprehensive plan. But basically we then make sure that our municipal code is consistent with that comprehensive plan, and in many ways it implements the comprehensive plan. So if the comprehensive plan says we need to have a variety of zoning zoning districts, and we want to enhance or improve the appearance of our neighborhoods, then our zoning code would be written to try and make sure that new buildings that are built in our neighborhoods have a attractive appearance, for example.
I have a question on those codes.
Yeah.
The R ratings. We have development upcoming in our neighborhood, and the neighborhood is R8, I believe, if not R10.
Okay.
The development that's coming up has one very large 12,000 square foot lot that does already have a home on it. It's been there for some years. And they've included that in the total acreage of those lots. So when they put down the next 7 homes in that acreage there, that will reduce the remaining lots to R5.
Yeah, so, well, I can kind of speak to that. So the way that our comprehensive plan relates to our zoning code also is through the land use designations. So we have, different types of residential and commercial and mixed use and industrial land use designations, and then the zoning gets more specific. So up here we have low density residential, which includes 3 different zoning districts, R10, R8, and R6. And that generally, if you see the 10, it'd be 10,000 square foot average lot size. 8 is 8,000 square foot average. Medium density residential, we have 2 zoning districts, and then high density is R2, so 2,000 square foot per unit, and those are kind of apartment style. So the subdivision you're talking about, let's just say it's R8, and then you have one 12,000 square foot lot. The average of the lots has to be 8,000, and then we do have a minimum on that as well. So you can't just go to 5,000 if you're in the R8 zone, but you can reduce the lot size by 20% as long as your average of all your lots in your subdivision is still 8,000. So 20% is 6,400. So that's the absolute minimum that a lot in R8 can go.
But why would it be allowed that one very large lot that is already occupied be allowed to be considered as part of that
Yeah.
averaging, because it skews it all
Yeah,
apart.
if it's already on the property, and the property owner that's proposing the subdivision wants to keep the house and make a lot out of it, they can absolutely do that. Even if the house wasn't there, they could propose a subdivision that has a 12,000 square foot lot and then a bunch of 6,500 square foot lots. As long as the average was 8,000, that would still be allowed under our code. So
But-
whether there's a house there or not, but that's generally why it happens. But then sometimes, you know, developers will want to vary the lot sizes within the subdivisions, so depending on like the shape of the property and the way the roads are laid out, sometimes the lots are, you know, 13,000 square feet, and then some of them are smaller, and it just all depends on the layout.
You can't convince me that it's not fair. You really can't, because it's already occupied. It's been occupied for years, and then it changes the actual zoning of the rest of the lots. If the rest of the lots were considered by themselves, of course, they wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to put as many homes on there.
Yeah.
But I don't know if anything can be done about it, but that's,
Well,
I've
the way
talked to an awful lot of people that think that's the wrong
Yeah.
thing, but I'll let you go on. I don't want to take up.
That would fall under a code amendment, but would have to solve that.
Okay.
So could I ask a question?
Sure.
In the same case, where you have a large lot and then the lower lots are smaller, but the average is your 8,000 square feet. After everything's all built out, could the owner of the big lot come in and want to subdivide that?
No, because
Unless you got the zoning changed on the lot.
yeah, they would have to replat essentially, and they probably couldn't do it, because if they split that lot up, then they would be under the 8,000 average. More than likely. If they were still over it because they had enough, you know, if they were over the average by enough that they could still add another lot, then yeah, they could do it. They would have to apply for a replat, so we kind of do the whole thing over again. And if they didn't have enough square footage to really meet the average still, then we would deny it.
So you could change the code to accomplish that, and it wouldn't be going against a Oregon.
I don't think so. I think that we would have the ability to do that, but it's strange that, you know, if there's not a house there, someone could, like a developer could still lay out their subdivision in a way that has a 12,000 square foot lot and then a, you know, 6,500 square
Yeah.
foot lot. So,
Yeah.
so it would be hard for us. It would be a tricky code amendment to write.
Probably make it like the reduction is 20%, you can make the increase 20%, maximum
Maybe.
20%. That's just something I
Yeah,
just thought about.
yeah.
You'd have a hard fight with developers on that one.
Oh, I know, but
Yeah, so it can get complicated, but yeah, I mean, that's a process that we would have to go through to change that rule. It'd be a code
Yeah.
amendment.
okay, thank you.
Sure. Examples of some of the items that are in our development code include traffic standards, building heights, setbacks, orientation, you know, which way the front door faces, environmental historic protections, parking, what the building looks like, including materials, scale and massing, and the amount of windows that are on a building facade,
Thank you.
and landscaping. And so we review someone's development plans against all of that code that applies to it, and write findings based on what we see. If a proposal doesn't meet what's in our code, we can either deny it or we can write a condition of approval that says change your plans to meet our code. Sometimes that's absolutely possible. We're just saying, oh, just add a little more landscaping here, or, you know, move the front door over here to meet what our code standards are. But if it's not really, if their proposal just can't really meet the standard, doesn't meet it at all, and you can't tweak it to meet the standard, then it would end up in a denial of that application. So here's an example finding. This is our code on building materials. And then in our staff reports, we essentially write what they're proposing and why it meets our code. We have different land use review levels, going from type 1 through type 4, and it gets more discretionary as you go. And so under type 1, it's very numerical. It's really easy, you know, a third grader could tell you if this proposal meets the standard. You know, their setback is 5 feet, they meet that setback. Very simple. As you get up higher, it gets a little bit more based on kind of subjective things, and there's some more judgment involved, and so that's why type 3 and type 4 go before Planning Commission and City Commission. So those folks are in charge of really using their opinions and, you know, their judgment to kind of make the call on whether a certain proposal meets our code.
And an applicant can appeal from one to the next?
Type 1 decisions cannot be appealed. Those are really black and white.
Okay.
Type 2 decisions can be appealed. Those appeals go to the City Commission, I believe. A Type 3 Planning Commission decision is appealed, it goes to the City Commission. If a City Commission decision is appealed, it goes to the Land Use Board of Appeals. It's at the state level. So example of type 1 application, simple, small projects, sheds, decks, home additions, and you know, we're reviewing height, setbacks, easements. That can take us, you know, 10 minutes at the counter up to a week for some types of projects. Type 2 includes public notices. So these are like new buildings, new multifamily, new commercial buildings, a new subdivision. And so when a new subdivision is proposed, we're looking at the lot sizes, the block length, stormwater, traffic impacts, and that process, we have a statewide statute time limit on how quickly we have to make a decision there. 120 days maximum. In Oregon City, we aim for a lot shorter than that. But we do have to build in time for 14-day public comment period, you know, writing our staff report, collaborating with our public works department to make sure that we've looked at the stormwater and the traffic and the streets and all of that. And so we get that decision out to the applicant with no hearings. The public notice, yes?
Question. 120 days, isn't that to the completion of the application?
The complete, we have 30 days to review the application and deem it complete or incomplete. Once it's complete, then we have 120 days to review it and either approve or deny it.
If the planning process goes beyond 120 days, that the public hearing process stretches out, that still doesn't count, does it?
If that happens, we generally talk with the applicant. The applicant can extend the deadline for us. So if there's, you know, if they see that, you know, the Planning Commission needs 2 or 3 hearings and that's going to get really close to that 120-day deadline, they might say to themselves, oh, well, you know, I think that I'll be approved at, you know, the 2nd or 3rd Planning Commission meeting. I'm going to go ahead and extend the deadline and allow that to happen.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question too? On the first slide that you had, where you had category 1, home additions, one of the pictures had like a storage shed being built. So you have to, say, if you went to Home Depot and bought a prefab shed, you have to get approval of installing it in your backyard?
Yeah, it depends on the size of it. If it's greater than 200 square feet, then yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it requires a building permit, and then the planning department would look at your setbacks for that before a building permit would be issued.
Or higher than 12 feet.
Yes,
I
there's
know
a
from experience.
Yes. Yeah. So the public notices that we send out for anything type 2 and above, they get posted to our website, a sign goes on the property, and we send a notice like this along with a map to everybody within 300 feet of the property. If it's a type 3 or high, if it's a hearing, we also are required to post those notices in the newspaper. When those notices go out, anyone may comment, even someone who didn't receive the notice can, come in and submit a comment. We receive them by email, by mail, and when they're received within the comment period, we incorporate those into the staff report. We always encourage folks to actually look at the criteria in the code and comment based on that, because a lot of times we'll get comments that are just like, well, I don't really like this, or I do like this, but it doesn't have anything to do with what our municipal code says about it. And so those don't add a whole lot to, we can't really react to that or integrate that into our staff report findings in any way. So type 3, these are planning commission hearings, schools, churches, nursing homes. These tend to be conditional uses, or they require master plans in some cases, and so those are more complex, and those go up to the planning commission. For example, a new school building, we would ask the planning commission, we'd provide them with a whole lot of information. And then ask them to make the judgment on whether the site is suitable for the use, whether the use kind of fits in with the area, and if it meets the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. Yes?
One question about schools, it's kind of a pet peeve of mine. Schools are typically located where the land is cheap, which is further away from the urban center, so it prohibits walking, which encourages bus traffic and that. Is there anything to encourage more centralized location of schools?
I'm sure we could do a lot to incentivize that, but our code currently doesn't. But we could write some code that would encourage that, but generally, in my opinion, things that might matter more or be more effective would be like using our SDC rates, or using other incentives outside of kind of the land use process to encourage that.
I just always see schools located in the periphery, and I don't think it's a great idea.
Yeah, no, I hear you. We noticed that as well.
Okay.
So what we did, when the high school, located way out on the edge of the city, what the city then kind of did after that was rezone some of the areas around the school to be a little bit more dense and more walkable. And then, add a concept plan. That area, it can be annexed on the other side of Beaver Creek Road. That can eventually be annexed. And so we essentially said, all right, well, if you're gonna build your school out here, then we'll just grow around you. We'll grow our city in that direction and try and create a walkable area.
That's a major arterial without an overpass, pedestrian overpass. That might be problematic with the traffic counts that Beaver Creek has.
Right, it would be upgraded significantly and, add safety features to make that work, of course. So the type 3 review process is similar to type 2. It's a public notice comment period and then a hearing. Let's see, we already talked about the public notices. And then a type 4, these are mostly zone changes, comprehensive plan amendments that go to the city commission for a decision. If someone wants to change the zoning code, as you suggested, or change their zoning designation of the property, that is reviewed against the comprehensive plan. We look at all of our infrastructure, whether our infrastructure can serve that, and whether it's still consistent with all of our different master plans. And so I'm trying to go fast here since we got started late. So a lot of folks want to know how they can get notices if they don't live within 300 feet of a property. The best thing I can suggest at the moment is to go to our city webpage. It's the city projects page, and we have a map, and you can navigate through the map and click on all those little red arrows and see what is being proposed. And we post every application, if it's type 2 or higher, we post it on the website. And you know, we have the notice posted as well, so you can see when it was proposed, when the public comment period is. And so that's the best way to do that now. What we're developing very soon here is essentially a email listserv that you can sign up for, and then you can subscribe and unsubscribe as much as you want. You don't have to ask us to add you. You can just say, I want to get emails about land use applications in just my neighborhood, or in the entire city, or in these 3 neighborhoods, for example. So you'll be able to do that really soon, and then you'll get, when we post something on this map, this website, you'll get an automatic email that says, a new land use application has been proposed in Park Place.
I thought they already had that.
It's a little, it doesn't work as well as we'd like it to.
Oh, okay.
And
A little clunky.
it's not, we're not able to let people choose the neighborhoods that they want to be notified about. So now this will just be more user friendly. I do have a couple things on traffic review, transportation review, that I added to the end that I stole from John Replinger. If you guys have, yeah. So he had a PowerPoint on our server, so I figured I'd take some of his slides. When we do review for traffic impacts, depending on the proposal, the size of the project, there are different levels of traffic analysis that have to be done. But generally it includes, the applicant tells us, all right, here's how many, according to this ITE manual, here's how many trips my project will generate. You know, here's where they're coming from, and here are the intersections that are affected. And then we take that, and you know, we know generally what traffic we have in the city currently, what our volume to capacity is at different intersections, and so we can look at what that added traffic would do to some of those intersections that are affected. Like I said, we have different requirements for different types of projects. All zoning changes have to go through what we call the transportation planning rule analysis. And so that is a little more elevated. It's just a higher level of review, more detailed. And then once we know what the traffic impacts are, we can then determine whether we need to require off-site mitigation, like a signal installation, or paying a proportionate share of an improvement. So if we know that we need a signal at an intersection, and this project is adding trips through that intersection, and it's going to cause it to go over capacity, then we can require that developer to pay into the cost of that signal, essentially. And then, of course, almost all developments end up having to improve their frontage of their property. If it's not already built out, if it doesn't have sidewalks, if it doesn't have on-street parking, and it's supposed to, if there's no bike lane, if there aren't enough travel lanes, then they build that. So when a new subdivision goes in, you see they build all the streets to current city standards. And then, you know, like on Beaver Creek, that anyone building on Beaver Creek would be improving that, you know, adding a lane, adding street trees and a sidewalk and a curb and gutter and all of that. And then probably, you know, crosswalks at the intersections too. And then also every development pays their transportation system development charges based on a calculation that we do. We have a set calculation for single-family homes. It's just a flat fee for each single-family home, no matter what the size of the house is. But for commercial projects, we have a complicated formula that our city engineer kind of determines on a case-by-case basis for each project. And then we use, all of those fees go into the pot, I'm sure you guys know this, and then we can use those for capital improvements throughout the city. So that's my Land Use 101 presentation. Any more questions?
Question, say you're gonna have multiple developments, let's use Holcomb, I live up that way, and you know there's gonna be a bottleneck on Holcomb. Which development triggers, not just parking the money to fix it, but actually getting it fixed? Because you might get 2/3 of the residents in there and you still haven't sprung the final
Yeah.
fix because you don't have enough SDCs or city money or something.
Right, right. Well, that's why we do the traffic study for each one. So if the traffic study shows that, you know, the current road system can't handle this development without, you know, street widening, for example, then that would trigger it. So it's kind of a case by case. If somebody comes in with 7 lots, you know, that's probably not going to do it, you know, add enough traffic to cross that threshold. But at some point, somebody's development will. We also collect, sometimes we'll collect fee in lieu of improvements, in addition to SDCs, for, you know, for improvements to a street. And so we have kind of a fund that all of that goes into. And so we can tap into that to fill the gap, if you will. If, you know, this developer is going to build part of it, then we can say, well, we have fee in lieu from all these other people who built earlier. Now let's put all that money together and actually build it.
Complicated a little bit. I think that the concept plan for the neighborhood there has a link coming down to Holly Lane on Redmond Road. And let's just say that in the grand scheme, when everything's done and built out, that would take half of the traffic out of the Holcomb, overall Holcomb area. But I'm not convinced that the SDCs in the city are gonna have the capability of doing that link.
Yeah,
But the rest of the building can keep going on, assuming it's gonna get done, and it may not get done.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's definitely a balance. You know, we work very closely with John Lewis
Yeah.
and on, you know, what projects are coming down the line, and you know, his staff review the traffic studies that the developers turn in, and so I can't tell you like exactly how it works because it's different for every project, but I think that's a good probably follow-up for maybe John to address too. Yeah.
I had a question too. You'd mentioned, I think your words were the applicant tells you how much traffic will be generated by their development. Are those figures from a traffic study they've done, or they
Yes.
just, okay.
Yeah, they pull that out of the ITE manual, and then we actually, John Replinger is our traffic consultant. He doesn't work for the city directly, but we have a contract with him, and he actually reviews their traffic study to make sure that they did it correctly, and that they didn't get their numbers wrong. So he double checks all of that for us.
The other question I had was, if you require a developer to contribute to a future traffic signal, say 1/4 of the cost, or 1/8 of the cost, do you require that to be paid in cash, or can they sign a developer agreement?
I think it depends. A lot of times they'll pay a check and we just hold it. But there are times when the city does enter into development agreements. But it's kind of that's also kind of a John Lewis, you know, however they want to work that out with Public Works. But our finance department has a great system of kind of keeping those funds. A lot of times, you know, they'll write a check and we do keep the cash aside and save it for that project.
So this is kind of related to John's question. When you take the cumulative effect of several different developments, all funneled into one street, do they have a matrix of some kind that they can use so that all these are added to this particular intersection And then when these last 35 homes come in, it explodes that intersection? Do they?
Yeah,
Have a-
that's one of the things that John Replinger does for us, is he tracks all of that. But also our transportation system plan was based on future 2035 conditions in the year 2035, and it assumes that all that development, it essentially assumes that everything has been built out according to the zoning. And so it assumes that those 35 lots are built. And so if the TSP says that that intersection is gonna do fine, out to 2035, then we know that, that's what we rely on to know that it's not going to, go over capacity. But then, we know that, when we have annexations or zone changes that weren't assumed in the transportation system plan, then we have to track that. So that's what John Replinger does for us.
Okay.
I pass.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ms. Reed. Appreciate your presentation.
I think,
She has a second
I have a second
presentation.
one.
Oh,
You guys are gonna get tired of me.
oh, that's right. Okay, I'm sorry.
Could we do these?
McLaughlin.
Yes,
Okay.
so my second presentation is for the McLaughlin Kenema Trail. We just finished the last of our community advisory group meetings, where we, a group from the community, including Mr. Lyman here, landed on a recommendation for an alignment for this trail. So the start and the end points are the promenade, where it ends at the VFW, to Kenema Children's Park. We're trying to connect those two places. And so we looked at a variety of alignments that I can show you. But I have our TSP map up here. It looks really kind of funky, but I just wanted to show you that our transportation system plan includes several projects that, when you connect them up, actually create what this trail was kind of thought of being at the time. So what this advisory group did was look at this and figure out, is this the right alignment? Where does the trail really make sense? And then we're gonna amend the TSP projects based on that. So you can see this path, it's shared use path project. This one's a family-friendly route project, as is this one. And so if you kind of put those three together, they create somewhat of a trail. So the conditions along it, here's 99 frontage. We don't even have a sidewalk there currently. The PGE substation that's on 99, also no sidewalk. But Old Kenema Park does have, we do have a portion of the trail that's kind of built already in Old Kenema Park. And then going through Kenema, as you know, we don't have sidewalks, but of course, that doesn't mean that people don't walk or bike in Kenema. If they don't really have a choice, they have to walk on the street. And there are kids bus stops within the neighborhood, and so of course you're going to have people walking around. So we wanted to talk about where it makes sense to kind of direct this trail through the neighborhood. But also how to make it safer to walk through the neighborhood. It is a National Register Historic District, and we've kind of the ship has sailed already on talking about sidewalks and curbs and all that in Kenema. That is not really an option, and so we had to get creative. We also looked at other alternatives. This is South End Road, or High Street becomes South End. There's a little bit of a shoulder that people can walk on. It kind of gets narrow at spots. And then even staying along 99E, there's that boardwalk there. And the TSP does include a crossing, pedestrian activated light crossing at Hedges, at Jerome Street in Kenema.
I missed that one. I mean, the second.
This, oh, and then the boardwalk, you know, continues along the river on 99, on the river side of 99, from here all the way up to kind of that viewpoint and the Highland Stillhouse. So that boardwalk we looked at as an option as well. So we formed this advisory group. We also held an event called Greenway for a day, and we invited people to walk the alignment. We put some cones out and balloons to kind of line the way and make it a little more safe along 99 especially. But we had over 80 people come out and walk the trail. And we had a tent with information at Kenema Children's Park and at the Museum of the Oregon Territory parking lot, kind of at each end of the trail. And so we were able to talk to all the folks that walked the trail. Some people actually biked. Some people actually put their kids in a bike trailer and biked. Or like brought their dogs, and so that was fun. And we were able to give all of them a survey to take too, to ask them, you know, what did you like the most about this? What did you like the least? You know, what are your suggestions? What are your preferences for safety improvements that we could make? And so we took all of that and we developed 3 alternative alignments that we looked at. This one goes along that boardwalk and then through Kenema. This one kind of goes along the route that we saw pictures of along 99 in front of PGE through the old Kenema Park and then through on 4th Avenue in Kenema. And then this one avoids Tumwater Drive and 99 and goes up to High Street to South End, and then into Kenema along 5th Avenue. And so the advisory group created a set of goals, and then we evaluated these 3 different options based on those goals. And you know, all 3 alignments had a lot of good aspects about them, and it was kind of a tough decision. But the advisory group ended up landing on essentially what is the option B, with a few little tweaks. And we have an interim trail recommendation and a long-term trail recommendation, kind of understanding that there might be some simple safety projects that we can do more quickly, and then there might be some long-term trail building that could occur, but probably not for a while because we have to wait on certain things to happen, and I'll talk about that. So our interim trail would kind of bring people out from the promenade out onto High Street, cross South 2nd, and then walk along 99 with some safety improvements, of course, along 99. PGE and ODOT were both on the advisory group, and so they, PGE has talked to us about an easement on their property for the trail. ODOT has talked to us about what sorts of safety improvements could be made on 99, and so we're going to continue to work with them on that, because we know we don't want to really start advertising a trail in the current condition that it's in.
Does option B require the purchase of more right-of-way than the other projects?
It does not.
Okay, that's a good thing.
Yeah. None of them really required a whole lot of purchase of right-of-way. We tried to avoid that, but I can talk about what would be, how that would work. So the permanent alignment would actually take you by the VFW, the museum, and then along Tumwater Drive. So we have an idea for a safe crossing there at Tumwater and South 2nd. And then to your point about acquiring property, you can see where that Tumwater Drive dead ends, and then we're on private property. But what we understand is that the zoning of those properties is mixed use. And with the Willamette Falls project, the Riverwalk going in, we could see some maybe new development occurring there in the future. Right now we have a collision and glass place, we have a towing business, and we have a small apartment complex. So they're kind of underdeveloped properties, and so they could be really ripe for redevelopment at some point in the future. And so when that comes in, we can work with those developers to build the trail along with their development, and it can be an exaction, if you will, that they provide space for a trail behind their properties so that we can build that. And so it wouldn't require us to necessarily buy it, but we would require it along with the development. The same way we would require them to build a sidewalk along 99E in the front of the property. And so the advisory group has a list of safety improvements to go along with this long-term trail recommendation. One of those is looking into closing off the VFW driveway and moving it to High Street and First to have a different access, because so if people are walking down that driveway, you know, it's really narrow and steep and the visibility is poor. So that's, we're not saying that we're definitely going to do that, but we're going to study it. Yes?
Kelly, you used the magic word, require. Tigard required something the other day, went all the way to the Supreme Court. And how can you require something?
Well, this plan is going to go before, or it's going to be presented to the City Commission for an official amendment to the TSP and the comprehensive plan, and to our Trails Master Plan. And so if it's officially adopted into our plans and we show that a trail, you know, we have an alignment and the trail goes through this property, our city attorneys have told us that it has to be officially adopted for us to have the legal basis to require that. If we just have this great idea that we want a trail, but we don't have it in any official documents, then that's where we would get into trouble.
Well, don't you compensate those people in some way?
They would get SDC credits because these are SDC projects, so they would be eligible for credits for if they build the trail themselves. Then they basically, their SDCs are reduced because they are building it instead of giving us the money.
Does this proposed trail go across any property that's already developed? Or did I miss something there?
No, that's what we have, an interim trail that, so in the meantime, we would be using the interim trail until all these properties would redevelop. And if they never redevelop, then we're gonna use the interim trail forever.
I'm just getting to the taking issue.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you, I think you know what I'm talking
Yes,
about.
yes.
Which is kind of delicate.
There are, if this city wanted this to happen sooner, then they could approach those property owners and, you know, try and purchase an easement from them. You know, that's another way to do it.
That makes me feel better because I have a proposed trail going through my property. You know, on the trail master plan that they have. Yeah, there's one there, but I don't think it'll ever happen.
I'm kind of digging in the weeds here a little bit, so forgive me for my request for details.
Yeah.
Along 99, do you know what the planned shy distance is away from 99? And is there any plan to make it more curvilinear and more aesthetically pleasing instead of just a very linear multi-use path that's adjacent to 99 so that the users are going to have more comfort using the facility?
In this look, so
Yeah.
in that situation
Yeah.
right here.
Because getting away
Yeah,
is
so
important.
There's not a whole lot of room there right now.
Okay.
And we've talked with ODOT about how much distance they need, like buffer distance. If we were to, for example, put Jersey barriers out there to protect the people walking from cars
that's
driving.
pretty.
Well, you know, any sort
Yeah.
of, you know, anything, any sort of barrier, hard barrier. You know, they have a setback requirement of like their travel lane has to be a certain distance away from any sort of wall. And so we don't have enough room there to really meet that exactly. So we have to work with ODOT to do what they call a design exception. And so we don't know exactly how that will turn out, but it's basically a negotiation with ODOT and their engineers to figure out what's safe and what can be done. We want a trail that's as wide as possible because we want, bicycles and pedestrians to be able to fit on it. Of course, we know we have vehicles pulling in and out, and so you have to have gaps in if there is any sort of wall or barrier put up. You have to have gaps so that cars can turn in and out. We did also talk about just maybe a landscape strip as the buffer instead of a Jersey barrier, for example. But I think anything we do out there is going to be a negotiation and a design exception process with ODOT.
Thank you.
Yeah. So with the long-term trail, the group identified other safety improvements they would want to see, especially in Kenema, including changing the speed limit to 20 miles per hour, adding traffic calming and street markings to indicate that this is a shared space, that all people traveling on the street in any way are sharing all this space, and so please drive slow and be careful. We just got done, you probably know the city's doing traffic counts right now throughout the city. We did some in Kenema. If those traffic counts turn out to be under the threshold, there's a new state statute that does allow local jurisdictions to reduce their speed limits in some cases to 20 miles per hour if it's if you're on a bikeway or a shared street like these would be. So there is a way for Kenema to get to 20 miles per hour as long as those traffic count numbers kind of turn out the way we think that they will. So that should be something that would happen fairly soon. And so the advisory group was very was adamant that they're not really comfortable with recommending this trail unless things like that happen. And so
Is the 85th percentile also considered along with of traffic speeds considered along with the traffic count?
yeah, so I think the 85th percentile has to be less than 30 miles per hour, and there has to be a certain traffic volume under a certain threshold. And it has to be a pedestrian or bike route of some sort that's officially designated and signed in that way. And if those three things are met, then the state allows a local jurisdiction to change the speed limit.
Okay.
So within Old Kenema Park, the path will be widened, and there will have to be a little bit of tree removal of some of those trees that are right next to the trail, and especially the ones that have roots that are already causing big bumps in that trail. I don't know if you've been out there, but it's definitely bumpy because of all the tree roots. This would be an example of maybe something along 99. To your question, there's a whole lot of room here, so we might not be able to do something quite that wide and separated, but that's one example that our consultants gave to us. And then connecting the promenade to 2nd Street might require another little extension of that promenade walkway through the grass here to connect to that street. And then, of course, these TSP projects will be amended as needed to reflect the new trail plan. So these amendments will go to the Planning Commission and the City Commission later this year in November and December. So we wanted to make sure to talk with the TAC before we went to them with those amendments. I have a detailed list of what exactly all those amendments are and the project numbers and all that. And we're adding a couple new projects to reflect the new, intersection safety improvements at South 2nd and Tumwater, for example. So those will be available very soon. And I'd love it if, the TAC would take a look at them and maybe submit a public comment for the Planning Commission, City Commission.
I have a question. So was in the current TSP, was there something similar calling for a trail here?
Well, it's this yellow one here. That's the shared use path. And then it connects to these family-friendly routes.
Right, so they're already in the TSP.
They're in the TSP, and then the Trails Master Plan has a similar thing. But these were not based on an actual planning process like what we just did.
Yeah.
They were really high level, just like, okay, let's connect point A and point B. And so the way this line is drawn, you can see it like cuts through buildings and stuff, and it cuts
So are
right
you
through.
looking for a motion from this organization to support this?
Not necessarily. You're more than welcome to do that, but I don't have. I'd like to actually get you the plan document and the actual amendments. I would be more comfortable with that.
Sure.
Before
So
hearing
we could act
approval.
on it next meeting?
Or individually. You know, if the planning commission meeting comes up and you want to submit a comment, I don't know if you would have another meeting before then. But yeah, just as individuals, you're more than welcome to comment, just like anyone else.
So how would we get those documents? Will you send them to us, or will we go through Lisa, or?
Yeah, they'll be ready soon. We're working. I'm working with John Lewis and Phil Lewis, Parks Director, on getting the details all sorted out right now, and just to reflect these two alignment recommendations. So we're getting that list. Totally.
I'm not sure why I feel this way, but I feel more comfortable. I think it'd be better if we submitted as a group instead of individually. I mean, that's our purpose for these type of documents, instead of commenting individually. So, I think it's important that we do that as a group.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Bob?
Oh, I agree. Yeah, it's part of our responsibilities is to offer recommendations, and it's recommendations as a committee, not as individuals.
Okay. Well, these are the alignments. So if you're comfortable making a recommendation of these recommendations, that's an option. Or the city commission won't meet until December. So if you have a meeting in November, then you would be able to, do it then.
Lisa, could you put that on a future agenda item?
Sure. Yeah.
Great,
And then
thank you.
the sooner we get that information in hand, the better off we are. Then
Yeah, absolutely.
we'll all be prepared at the next meeting to
Absolutely.
give a good discussion.
Great.
So would it be on the agenda as an action item for
Yes.
recommendation to the commission?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good idea, yeah.
I didn't like individual.
I had a couple of questions too. I live in South End neighborhood. If I was gonna walk to downtown, I guess I could go along Lynn to Fifth Street and then take the elevator to downtown. But from where I live, if this trail was connected to someplace in South End around where I live, near South End Road, it'd be a walking or bicycling path that I could take.
Yeah.
Why did you end it at Kanema Children's Park?
Well, that's a really good thing you're bringing up. This trail is actually just a segment of what is the Oregon City Loop Trail, which kind of wraps around the entire city. So that's a planned trail in the Trails Master Plan, and it's a regional project as well, and so it could qualify for regional funding, which is great. So where that trail, where this one ends, eventually the loop trail is supposed to continue through Kanema Bluff natural area, and then jog into the South End neighborhood, a little farther south, kind of near Butel Road and Forest Ridge. So when the South End concept plan kind of area gets built out, that trail will be built along with that. That connection will go through. We have, I mean, South End Road, of course, going by Kanema, we all know it's got a lot of constraints and doesn't really have any room even for sidewalks, bike lanes. And so this loop trail would be probably eventually, when it's built, it'll be the best way for people to walk between South End area and downtown. And I would guess that there would probably be additional connections into Kanema Bluff area eventually too, from some of those, you know, dead end streets that come off of South End and then go into kind of the hill.
From Kanema Children's Park, I can walk to the Pioneer Cemetery, but I can't envision how, if you chose that route, how I could get up to the south end. You know, it's just wood, so I don't have a good...
Yeah, we would, we've talked with Metro, who owns that property, and they're aware that we have a long-term plan that shows a shared use path cutting through there in some way, and so we'd be working with them to figure out the flattest route to get through that space, because, you know, some parts of it can be steep, so how can we kind of stay along the ridge lines, kind of.
Okay, you mentioned flattest route possible. Is this trail handicapped accessible?
So the existing topography for the McLaughlin-Kanema Trail area does not allow us to meet ADA standards, especially like on the streets in Kanema, even like on Ganong there. It's a 17% slope, and it's an existing condition. And so we, when that's the case, the rules are different. You know, if you're building a brand new trail on a flat area, yeah, you have to make it ADA. But if you're in an existing neighborhood with steep areas and you're using an existing street, then the rules are different. So what we try to do is choose the flattest route possible, and knowing that there are going to be some steep sections, how do we minimize those as much as possible? So that's what this attempts to do, but we knew going into this that there was no way that we could have a fully ADA trail with only the 5%, because it's 5% slope really is ADA. So it won't be, but we are trying to make it smooth and wide, so that if you're in a wheelchair, you're pushing a stroller, that, you know, you can, you have the best chance of, you know, navigating that.
Survival?
No, of, you know, having a decent time,
Yeah,
not struggling.
I don't remember the actual slope rates, but there used to be a standard we could go for a short segment on a steeper slope and then have a level spot for, say, somebody in a wheelchair to rest.
Yeah, and we can't even meet those standards really, just with the existing topography out there. And there's like the driveway that goes into Old Kanema Park too is a little bit steep. That VFW driveway is steep, and so we just have to kind of deal with the topography.
Okay. Another question I had, is there any points of interest along here that people might want to look at and tempt them to take a walk along this trail?
Yeah, I think that what we heard from the community was that Old Kanema Park is a hidden gem, and they'd love to see a trail connect to that so that it's easier to access.
Okay.
Yeah, people really enjoyed the views, especially from in there. You know, you can view the falls, and just you know, how wooded and quiet it gets in the park. The wildlife, there are deer that live in the area. I actually saw one last time I was there measuring some things in the park. A deer ran out. So yeah, wildlife, I mean, access to nature, there's definitely a lot for people to enjoy.
Okay, my last question is, did you have any specific improvements in mind to make intersection of Tumwater and Second Street a safe place to cross?
Yeah, we have a very exciting sketch. You know, it's not engineered, but we're gonna have in the plan a little sketch of a pedestrian activated flasher crossing with Refuge Island in the middle, and you know, a nice wide kind of striped area so that drivers really see it and know to stop. And that there's that refuge island in the middle so that people can get halfway across and then wait again and then get the other way, half of the way.
Excuse me. Henry, are you okay?
I'm fine, but I'd rather be back here away from Mike, so if I start talking.
Oh, okay. I can allow one more question, then we've got to move on. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
It
I'll
was very
have the-
informative.
Thank you, I'll have the information to you as soon as it's available.
That'd be great.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelly.
Okay, we're going to go back in the agenda to citizen comments. We have a Ms. Johnson and
Another Johnson.
Ms. Place.
No, Carrington Place has asked me to come.
Oh, come forward.
Okay. Actually, Corey Wadsworth sent me here with the police department.
Sit down so we can hear you over the mic. Yeah. Okay.
My name is Lori Johnson, and I live across from the high school, the new high school, and our neighborhood has asked me to represent them, and Chris Wadsworth sent me here because there have been many near misses at the crosswalks with children, dogs, neighborhood people. And we would like to inquire about upgrading the signs. The density has increased a great deal and the traffic has increased a great deal. And we're just afraid there's going to be a tragedy.
Where exactly is that crosswalk?
Myers?
Is that the signal?
No, that's Beaver Creek. It's not, Beaver Creek is not the problem. It's Myers, Emerson, Sophia, and then all those new apartments, and it's the crosswalks that go to and from the high school.
Okay. So it's the area between the
The bus barn.
barn.
The bus barn
And Beaver Creek.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's the crosswalks right there.
Yeah. Is it the crosswalk or is it jaywalking or is it both?
Well, the problem is the, what shall I say? New drivers?
I've driven through the area several times, and one of the things I've noticed is that there's a tremendous amount of parking on both sides, and living on a similar street, I can tell you that it's more prevalent to go from the car to the other side of the street than it is to go down to a crosswalk and cross and come back.
That's not, we are concerned with the actual crosswalks.
Okay,
People are using the crosswalks. But the speed limit is supposed to be 20 during high school.
Mhm.
And literally, there are people racing through there, mostly young people.
I have a question.
It's just a matter of,
We have 3 traffic control officers. Has anybody called in and asked them to come and use the site and see if they can change habits? Because they can ticket people for speeding if they're actually going too fast in a school
well, the
zone.
police department,
They have unmarked cars if they go out there.
for some reason, they said they would like the neighborhood, because we've experienced these things, to come here and tell you, and basically just to get the signs upgraded. Like the signs at other schools, and the signs are even upgraded on the other side of Myers, not by the high school.
If I can interject, I have pictures of all different crosswalks throughout Oregon City, and they're crosswalks, and then down below there's a little box with a red stop sign, and it says state law on it. And then prior to that, there are signs that say crosswalk ahead. Now, at Oregon City High School, where I've experienced some really bad things.
And she lives in another neighborhood.
In Oregon City High School, all it is a triangle, people, and an arrow. Doesn't say anything. There's no red signs, and if you want me to show you the difference, I can show you.
No,
There's a
that's okay.
huge difference. And all it would take would be putting another sign underneath the sign that says state law. There's a little stop sign, and it's a white, it's about this big, about this wide, it's long, state law, then there's a stop sign, must stop with, when people within crosswalk. But at Oregon City High School, there's nothing there. And now we have, 600 more residents that are right across from the high school, and it's constant. Kids go the wrong way down Myers because they try to get out of there and in a hurry. And I go over there every single morning because I have to pick up my grandson, and there isn't a day that goes by that kids are trying to get across the crosswalk, but kids that are driving don't stop for them. They can be right in the middle of the crosswalk. And kids, they do not stop for them. And I've seen some really close near misses. As a matter of fact, just last week, a lady with a baby in a stroller. And somebody's gonna get killed there. And a lot of other schools, I noticed, West Lynn, Lake Oswego, Tigard, they have actually flashers. They have flashers at their high schools that when a kid comes across, it's like a crosswalk. You can push a button and then they flash. But
Like 6th Street by the library.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it would be helpful if we had a picture of the different kinds of signs. You said you have a
I
picture.
do.
But if you could give us a copy so staff can
Okay.
get that, then we can look at it.
I think we can have all the signage in the world if we don't have it coupled with enforcement.
Right.
It's not gonna do any good, but I think as a committee, we can make a recommendation or a request that we get some more enforcement out there. I'm all about safe routes to school, that's one of my passions, so forgive me, guys.
It's
It gives me the chills.
It's
'cause
really
I'm
scary
No,
because
I-
of
you're
the
I think you're
population
preaching
there.
to the choir, I get it.
Yeah.
And I think we can definitely, as a group, request our city engineer to look at appropriate signages. I know our budget is really tight, so getting flashers, and I think schools are a great location for flashers because there is a propensity to have high pedestrian volumes going to any schools, and we want to encourage people to walk to school. So whatever we can do to enhance safety for people going to school, I think is
I
a
have another
no-brainer.
question that I don't know the exact parameters, but it is now high density. It wasn't when those signs were put up. It is now high density because of all the apartments and such. And is that street, because of the population, and there's so many people, addresses on that population now, should it not be 25 miles an hour instead of 30? Also, at all times? Just a question?
I think what would need to happen, and as a group, we might need to make a request for a pedestrian count to see what the actual pedestrian traffic is there, but I think schools are the logical location to have that type of request because of safety issues.
I
And
think
they do tend to be high pedestrian areas.
Yeah, I
So-
think there's 600 units right across from the high school.
So perhaps we can put this on the next month's agenda, have material provided to staff so they have specific locations and specific difference on the signage.
Oh, I know exactly where I took all the pictures, yeah.
So but she needs hard copies of that or
Okay.
electronic copies. And then we should think about inviting one of the patrol officers here that does traffic enforcement the night we take it up.
Oh, excuse me, we have a undercover officer that lives on the street, actually, one of the streets. And he tried to catch one of the persons doing that, and he couldn't catch up with them the other day.
Well,
Well, like you mentioned, young drivers or new drivers,
Well, yeah.
a lot of those
Well, you
up
know,
there.
I think it's not the brand-new 16-year-old drivers, because they're like this. I think it's the one that are getting a little,
What,
Well,
now,
I
is
think-
that posted 30,
I can't head to
is
head.
that posted as 30 miles an hour?
it's posted
35.
20 during school hours.
And 35.
30
Oh,
otherwise.
okay, well, let's follow up on that on a future agenda. Now, I think we have quite a bit on our November agenda already, don't we?
We do, and Matt Paulison, the street operations supervisor, I believe he's already looking into this request because Chris Wadsworth forwarded us.
Possibly, I know they changed one sign because somebody,
Graffiti.
Yeah, we had
Has
a
the graffiti
request
on it.
for graffiti removal on a sign and a red flasher in the neighborhood.
okay.
That might have
Actually,
been-
yeah, I think it's your email that they forwarded to us. So Matt Paulison is already working on this. He's
good.
looking into a flasher. I know that he and I talked about the rectangular rapid flashing beacon like we have out in front of the library. Those are between $12,000 and $20,000 to install. So that probably wouldn't be an option
Maybe
at this
not
time.
all of them, but
Like
maybe
I-
one of them right at the main exit from the parking lot of the school.
But even that sign that says state law though, with the red
Right.
on it.
I think that
would be-
sign is more
Right. I think a
practical
lot of
because
kids-
one of the rapid flashing things would have to be put in a capital budget. It's not something that they just have laying around.
I don't think kids know they don't know it's a law, is my guess.
Yeah, probably.
A lot of them don't realize that they have to stop for pedestrians.
A
Yeah.
lot of them don't care.
They don't care.
And that too, yeah.
Yeah.
The thing that bothers me about this type of conversation we're having right now is these young ladies have approached us and put us on notice. We know something about the conditions that they've described. We've all experienced it, but their comments have put us on notice. Now, if we don't do something other than just talk about it, and something happens out there, I don't like to be in a situation like that. Somehow, we've got to let the school district know that we've been advised and we're taking this seriously. And that the police department, the enforcement people ought to be advised and we're taking this seriously because we know. And because we know we're responsible to some degree. We're not behind the wheel, but we've got some responsibility.
And there could be the potential of partnering with the school district.
right,
For
Whatever, but I-
for the more expensive flasher. or
For the
something
more
like that.
expensive flashers, but, you know, I'm a firm believer of enforcement. You can put signages up all day. But without the enforcement and the fear of, because those are hefty fines.
Yeah, very
So they
hefty.
could make a fortune if they just
Yeah.
had somebody out there every day.
Yeah, so, you know, I think, as Bob said, that we've been put on notice, and we need to put the enforcement people on notice too.
I think
As a
we need to put
committee.
the principal on notice and the school district supervisor on notice. You know, we're not the only ones.
Yes, Henry?
Henry?
I think one of the reasons that Chris sent them here is because the police cannot probably write the ticket until the sign is up there so that they can accuse the people of violating the traffic control sign.
I think so too.
And so I think that's one of the obstacles to getting police enforcement out there, is that those rider signs that she's talking about, without them, there's probably no basis for writing the ticket in the first place.
Well, ignorance of the law is no excuse.
But if it's a crosswalk,
If it's a
and they
crosswalk,
don't stop for a pedestrian, they're breaking the law.
true, but if you're speeding at 35 or miles an hour at a school zone, if it doesn't say that these laws are 30 miles an hour at a certain enforcement period, which is one of the requirements,
Yes, yes.
then the lower speed limit really doesn't apply.
Well, John Lewis is not here, but that seems like a pretty, in the grand scheme of things, a inexpensive
Yeah.
first step.
Right.
Right.
It is. Yeah, I can follow up with Matt. Matt did look into this when we first received this from Chris Wadsworth, and he did say that the signage that is out there now is legal, so they should be able to enforce it right now. But I'll ask him about looking for other signage, other crosswalk signage too.
You know,
Being young,
I-
seeing more visual too, they may just get it.
Right.
Somebody might
Yeah.
get it.
Well,
Yeah.
another thing for us to look into, not as a recommendation, but as a possibility, is perhaps one of those radar signs that kind of tell you, hey, quit talking to your passenger and pay attention because you're doing 45 mile an hour in a 20-foot
Flashes slow down.
Yeah.
The problem is, the question is there parking on both sides of that street?
Say that again?
Is there parking on both sides of the street at that location?
Yes.
In one area, there's parking on both sides of the street, and then there's a medium that goes right down, that goes down the middle, that has rose bushes and trees and everything. But now, 2 days
That's why I
ago,
asked that, because of Henry's recommendation of that.
Right.
Would there be space to put a trailer there?
put a trailer.
You have seen these trailers around?
Radar.
Yes, there
Speed
is.
indication.
There has been a trailer there
At the
before, further
exit.
up.
Okay,
From the parking lot, away from Beaver Creek, there would be space, the exit of the parking lot from the high school, I believe.
Well, it seems to me that we should partner with the school district, have them hand out to anybody who's driving what the rules of the road are in that area, so they get educated, assuming they don't, and then they've been put on notice too. So that's something they can do a couple times a year. Anybody who's driving gets a handout, and it tells them what they need to do there.
And there's a lot of other things too. It's like you can't turn left across the medium into the school, but they do. And I mean, there are signs out there, like you said, they just don't pay any attention to them. And kids, I witnessed something the other day. I was coming down the one side towards the school, and some kids came right over on the other side of the medium and just went straight towards me on a one-way. I mean, it's like, here's these cars and here's me. And they had to pull over. I should have stopped and taken pictures, but they were stuck because there's a medium there.
Yeah.
They couldn't get over, and they're driving on the wrong side of the street. And so they know, I think, what they're doing.
Well,
a lot of
Lisa,
it.
could you
It's
include
scary.
any information that other departments are working on, like you just told us, with the pictures that the ladies present to you,
Sure.
so that the committee can have that information in hand, so we'll know what's being done outside of our committee, but I
I have a
Thinking
16-year-old
down the road.
driver, and he and his friends are not the sharpest tool in the shed when it comes to driving.
Let me tell you, it's really a scary, and I think I witness it probably a lot more than most people because I have to go to Sophia Court every single morning and every single afternoon, right around those critical times. And so I witness it 5 days a week. And I don't know how many kids have almost gotten run down by
So can you tell us what the two critical times are, like from 7 to?
Okay, 7 in the morning. Well, there's actually 3 critical times, but I don't witness the
So
lunch.
you just tell us what you think the three
At
are.
7:30, 7:30,
7
and-
to 7:30?
7 to 7:30,
Okay,
okay? And then
After school's worse.
3, after school is worse, because I think they're more
and
of an
that time,
inquiry.
what time is that?
Well, depending on if it's a Wednesday, it's gonna be
Well, give us the general one,
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
3
okay.
o'clock, 2:50 to 3:15.
Actually, there's
Okay.
early bird.
2:50 to 3:15.
As soon as school's out like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Right, so we can, when we get the police report, we can find out if they've done any
And lunchtime too.
patrolling on it.
Yeah, the kids have early bird, so some of them get there at 6:30.
Yeah, and some of them do
Yeah,
get,
it's rounded.
They get 6:30 to 8 o'clock.
A lot of kids though,
It's
is,
those kids.
a lot of kids that do early bird are, it's truth, but they do drive a little bit better.
Have you
But
expressed any of this to the school district?
Yes.
Yes.
As a
You
matter
have?
of fact, they have sent a cart, like a golf cart around.
A golf cart?
They have a golf- they
Because,
have-
because a fire has been started on Sophia Court and the easement because of all the smoking. And that's another,
we have had
Situation.
many neighbors go to the high school and complain about traffic and stuff.
They can't,
But they say that they can't do anything because it's a police thing. And then the police, like I think we were saying, sent us here because it's a traffic thing.
I
So,
think there can be a partnership between the schools, enforcement, and the city. As John mentioned, I think the school providing flyers 3 times a year, that's a great idea. That's an education, there are many components. There's education component, there's enforcement component, there's
Signage.
engineering, signage components. If we combine all the different components, I think we can have an impact. But without doing all 3 or 4, I don't think we're gonna have much of an impact.
yeah, it's scary because like I said, there's so many little kids out there too, because of the density. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you so
so what
much.
we need to do now,
Give her the
just give
pictures.
you the information and we'll be in touch.
Yes.
Okay.
Let me give you my email address so you can email them to me.
Okay, I give it to you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, sure, yeah. And let me give you mine. That way, if you want to email me
Well,
photos
that should
or-
complete all the subjects on our agenda for this evening. So if nobody has
Let me
anything
write my
more,
full name.
I'll call this meeting closed.